My name's Susie, and I have had Suna Pilates and Wellbeing for almost 20 years now. And I've been in this industry a long time. I've been doing kinesiology almost 2 decades now, and the whole focus is how to help people heal. And it's really how to get the best out of life and how to do it without side effects, you know. When I started, I actually started fixing bodies. I had broken my neck and I had fractured vertebrae in my back, dislocated shoulders, blown AC joints, ACL, MCL in knees, wrists, fingers, ribs, concussions, ankles, all sorts of things, snowboarding and just having fun. And so when I started with people, I was like, wow, I fix me, I can fix you. What have you got? Let's go ahead. And after a while, I realized that I actually needed more tools to help people, because not all the back pain, for example, would go away when we corrected your posture and corrected your function. Turned out you might have had some gut inflammation that was actually switching off the abs and feeding into the pain in the low back. So I picked up nutrition, did all the CHEK certifications in holistic nutrition, worked with Dr. Cliff Oliver, Paul CHEK, and then I realized I needed more, and that's when I got into kinesiology. And it's been a really cool ride, and one of the things that I've recognized for years and years, and it's been such a blessing because I get to work this on myself as well, I get to work in it and I get to work on it, is self-care. Self-care is a really big issue. And the majority of people that come to see me, whether it's for a bad back, a bad neck, autoimmune diseases, any injuries, I find that one of the biggest things is that some more self-care could really help whatever that situation is. And for a lot of people, it's just an awareness that we're so programmed to just get on with it and keep doing stuff. And I have to go to work and I have to get the kids and I have to do this and I have to do this, that we often don't have the time to stop and think about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and if there's a better way. It doesn't have to be super hard. So, you know, there are so many people, and once again, this is probably 90% of what I deal with. Regardless of the issue people come in with, we soon realize it is an issue in sympathetic dominance, and being in a fight or flight scenario long term, and being overwhelmed and stressed and busy and juggling the work-life balance or having no balance whatsoever. So it's a huge amount of people for us, and so I thought we'd just have a chat about self-care and maybe give you some food for thought, because the recognition is a hard one to come to. And once you recognize that you actually could put a little more into yourself without being selfish and without taking up time that you want to use for other things, or you know, making sure we can still see all the kids' sports or whatever you want to do, once we're actually aware of that and we recognize that need, it's so much more powerful for us to do what we need to do. If we don't recognise that need, it just seems too hard. We put in the too hard basket, and we don't take the great care of ourselves that we could. And it doesn't have to be hard, but recognise the need, and that's the first big step. So you are not alone. If you are feeling stressed, if you're always feeling busy, if it's always work, kids, or work, or whatever it might be, just realise you're not alone. You know, I deal with a lot of people every week, both our clients, our staff, friends, our communities. You know, I have 2 kids at 2 different schools. We're in the rugby club. And this is one of the biggest things I hear all the time. And I know in my history, it's very easy for me to get into too much and be into too much. And it's very easy to get overloaded. But being understanding of your own self-care and what you require can really help you manage these things and still do what you want to do. And maybe prioritise those things as well. You can't help others if you can't help yourself. Now, this is one of the first ideas that I ever heard a long, long time ago. And it was the first thing that made me stop and go, oh my goodness, this is right. I was busy working 125 client hours a week because I needed to fix everyone, and I just had so much love to give, and I wanted to do this, and lucky I was super young so I could deal with it. However, it was fatiguing me, adrenaline. It was taking a toll on my body, and it took me a long time to recognise that. And when I did recognise it, it was put to me that if you were in a plane that was going down for an emergency landing, they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, because if you put someone else's on, you'll pass out or die, and then you can't help anyone. And so it was that idea of giving to yourself first. And I now know from experience that if I've got a bit too much on, I need to go and cull some things. I need to sort myself out. I also know that I require a certain amount of time to myself. And I can take that half an hour in the car before work if that's what I needed to do, sitting at the beach, I don't know, whatever suits me on the day. But it does come down to, if you really want to help others and be of use to your family, of service to your family, your friends, your work, if you want to work well, anything you want to do in life well, you really have to help yourself first. And it's the whole thing of you can't serve or you can't pour from an empty cup. So you can keep running yourself ragged, but one day you're going to cark out, and then other people are going to be required to help you. So it's of a great service to take good care of yourself, so that hopefully that isn't required or isn't required for a much longer time. The only way to actually beget change is to change yourself. And again, this is something I have learned through long experience, that I just wanted to save the world, and I want everything to be right, and I want, people to think this way and do this. And then I realized I couldn't control anyone or anything. So I started the work within, and I recognized that the better I am and the better I am feeling, the better results I can help my clients get. And it is night and day. I can still do great work if I'm tired. Maybe, the dog got me up last night or something, and I come into work and I still feel pretty good. But if I've had a really good night's sleep, the work is even more amazing. That's just how it happens. So it's of service to absolutely everybody, including myself. The only way to the understanding of yourself is actually, or the understanding of anything in life, is actually understanding yourself as well. So what does it take to care for myself? Why am I not caring for myself? Why would I like to care for myself? And can I get some new drivers that are going to help me really treat my body really well, in a really nice way? The way that most of you probably treat everyone else would be really nice if you could treat yourself that way as well. All right. So I was going to talk a little bit about the sympathetic dominance, and I think we had a chat about this last time, when we are overwhelmed and stressed. Now, our autonomic nervous system has a brake and an accelerator, and our brake is used for resting and repairing. This is our parasympathetic system, and so we use that to poop and to digest and to rest and repair at night. We also have our sympathetic system, our accelerator. I'm going, I've got to do stuff, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And it's also the same system that we would have used 10,000 years ago if a tiger was chasing us. I'm picking berries, I see a tiger, I go, holy cow. And all my stress hormones go up, my rational, logical brain goes down, my digestion turns off, all sorts of things turn off, and I run. When I run away from the tiger, what should happen is all my stress hormones should come back down and everything comes back online. Whereas in today's culture, what we often do is we have a stressor, a tiger, and then we go, well, what if that happens again? I need to tiger-proof my house. Oh, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And we never quite come down to that baseline again where the body can actually rest and repair and regenerate. And we can often tell that because we're not pooping regularly, we're not pooping nicely, we have tummy upsets, we're not sleeping well. Those are the types of things that tell us we're in that sympathetic dominance or that fight, flight, or freeze mode. And why is that important? Because when we recognize that, we need to also recognize that some more self-care is required to get us down to that baseline so that we can actually continue being useful human beings and happy human beings. And it comes to that idea of, if we are in sympathetic dominance, we are just surviving. And surviving is not super fun. What we really want to do is thrive. And a lot of clients that come in here don't realize that they're in survival mode. And when they recognize that, it's a really great shock. I am just actually going through Groundhog Day again and again and again, not to get on top, just to survive, just to make ends meet. There are some really interesting stats that I've read over the years about 95% of people in the Western world are one paycheck away from bankruptcy. 95% of people in the Western world do not poop every day. And yes, there's a strong positive correlation there. It's that fight or flight. It's staying in that program of survival. Whereas if we were looking at how do I thrive, then that's something that requires self-care. And It is possible for everybody. It takes different strokes for different folks. So it really is about finding out about yourself. All right. So what can you do? What can you do for self-care today? Well, change doesn't have to be big. And often when people go, oh, I have so many acquaintances and people that I know through my kids' friends and things like that who say, oh, going on a 10-week detox. And I say, okay, because your body does detox naturally anyway. No, I'm going on a 10-week detox. I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm eating 2 small meals of lean chicken and vegetables a day, and I'm exercising for 3 hours a day. And they do this and they drop huge amounts of weight, often, and they're cutting themselves off from social situations because there may be different food and different drinks there, and they know they've just got to put their head down and do it, and they're not treating their body very kindly. Like, I can't imagine the body really loving this type of deprivation, this type of hunger, this type of, in some cases, it's really abuse to your own body. And what happens is after that 10-week program, they go, yay, I've done it. And they just go out and go straight back to their normal lifestyle. And guess what? There's massive ramifications. And the body piles on all the weight and more. And any time we do those yo-yo things, so we do that for 10 weeks, we do that for 3 weeks, we do that juice cleanse. If we're constantly doing things like this and our weight's going up and down, the more you do that, the harder it is to take weight off, if that is your concern. Your metabolism is really smart and it goes, oh, food's not coming all the time, and sometimes we're required to run all the time. We'd better slow the metabolic rate so that we can survive, because what if we're caught without food and we have to run for 3 days? So I'll just slow everything down. And that's how the body thinks. It's there to protect you and it's there to help you. So over-exercising, under-eating and depriving yourself of joy does not work. It never works. And I've been in the industry over 20 years and I've never once seen it work. I've seen some short-term gains, but I've seen no long-term benefits. And actually, I've only seen long-term detriment. But this is a program that we're all running. I think we were told in the 70s or 80s this worked, and it's really outdated. And this is not what trainers should be doing with you. This is not what nutritionists should be doing with you. What really does work is small habitual changes, practices. And you need to know a client first before you start giving them changes. If someone walks in and I just have a one-size-fits-all and goes, oh, well, this is what you're going to practice today, and you're going to drink this much, you're going to eat this much, this is how much I want you to eat, these are the supplements, this is what you're doing, blah, 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 blah. That's a huge amount. That's overwhelming. That's almost like turning up to work and say your job was on reception and you were taking calls and fielding things and opening letters, and then you turn up to work on Tuesday and you've been doing this job for years and your boss goes, oh, hey, the CEO of the company quit and that's you now. So you're going to field meetings and do all the marketing and blah, blah, blah. There you go. Off you go. Okay? That's just a bit freaky. That's not really how it works. And I don't know many people that could deal with that type of huge leap. And our bodies certainly aren't designed to make huge steps. Very few people can make a 180-degree turn in health like that. Very few people can pick up things and just go with a huge amount of change altogether. Very few. And there's a reason for that. We have mechanisms in our system that don't want us to change really quickly because it might not be good for us. So the body wants to just have a look at it and ease into it. You know, if you do one thing better once a week, say 1 day a week you drink enough water and you never did before, sweet, look at you doing self-care. That's all it takes. And you don't need to think it's huge things that you need to celebrate and congratulate yourself on. It's every little step along the way. And the combined results from those little changes will actually get you the hugest results and long-lasting ones. If you're making lifestyle changes, so the practices you have every day, the rituals you have every day, the things you do every day, if you're making these changes, that's how this is going to last forever and you're going to look and feel great. If you're just trying to change something temporarily, or you're trying to fast track something and force your body into it, that's really going against the nature of your body. And your body is built this way very smartly with a millennia of DNA in it, which is an encyclopedic knowledge of humanity. and it's built to protect you. And there's a lot of evolution behind that, and I don't think we should really second guess that system. I find working with the system always gets us the results we want. Working against the system never works. You've got to go with the nature of it. All right. Everything in your life will improve when you improve. So I've had clients come in and they might have had a really sore back, and this is a really common one, an achy low back all the time, nothing fixes it. Been to an adjuster, done exercise, done this, nothing's fixing it. And when we have a look into it, what we find is actually their stress response is so high, the kidneys are dealing with so much stress hormone that they're recruiting the low back muscles. So it doesn't matter what you do structurally, it doesn't matter what you're eating, until you deal with what the stressor is, and all stressors generally come with a lack of self-care, you're not dealing with that problem. Once we get onto the self-care, and they find that the cure for their back is actually just being kinder to themselves and cutting themselves as much slack as they cut everybody else, and loving themselves the same way they love everybody else. And often they are giving to everyone. Oh, I stayed up late last night because I was helping this person with this, and then I moved house for my friend this day, and rah. Don't know why my back's still sore. And what they're not doing is actually sitting down and going, yeah, my back's sore. It's probably telling me to sit down and rest because I'm just doing too much all the time. And we've really just got to honour that. If you're driving a car and you're overtaking, sometimes the little rev meter goes up into the red zone. It's not supposed to stay there for too long. If your rev meter is up in that red zone all the time and you're just always overtaking and always going, what's going to happen? If you were a car, you'd blow something in the engine. Everything's going to overheat and it's going to stop. And that's what we're seeing more and more of, bodies shutting people down. The number of people who come in thinking they've had a stroke, thinking they've had a heart attack, getting rushed to hospital, and nothing can be found. Simply because the body's gone on overload. You've blown every fuse and it's shut down and gone, okay, we need to start again. Just stop. That's a bit too much. Just because your beautiful brain and your beautiful heart want to do all these things, it doesn't mean the body's made for that. If you have a horse, say you're riding a horse, love the analogies tonight. If you have a horse and you're riding your horse all day for maybe 12 hours, I think a horse at one point is probably going to collapse, don't you? Yet we'd probably treat our pets better than we treat ourselves, probably treat our cars better than we treat ourselves at many times. And I like those analogies because then it makes us really aware of, oh, actually, yes, I am doing that. And gosh, I do put so much into everyone else. And often we do that, it's just because we're unaware. And sometimes we're putting so much into everyone else because we're scared of what we're going to find in ourselves. But, it's never as bad as you think. So it's always worth a poke. So what else can we do? Well, we have a lot of methods actually. We have a whole lot of goal setting that we do here so that we can find out exactly what it is that makes you tick and what's going to help you care for yourself. And then we have all sorts of actions lists of what might be the best thing for you and how many can you deal with this week and what's going to make the biggest improvement in how you feel the fastest. And we'll look at everything from thoughts, things like being present and how to do that. What does that mean and how do I do it? Breathing. Why the breath? And everyone's heard meditation and everyone's heard about breathing exercises and how it can calm you and put on the brake. But there's some really simple things you can do with a second or two each day. You could do it every time you got into your car if you wanted, but we've got all those tips for you. Hydration. What is water for? Dilution. Okay, the body needs dilution for everything it does. Here's the best thing you can do for yourself straight up. Drink 1 litre of water per 25 kg you weigh per day. So if you're 75 kg, that's 3 litres a day. Good quality water, preferably not chlorinated and fluoridated, but 3 litres a day, and swirl it around your mouth before you swallow because the enzymes in the mouth tell the gut what's coming down. If you just chuck it back down, it's just going to fall right out. So 1 litre per 25 kg per day, and get a water plan. So I do 1 litre before I leave the house. I do half a litre on the way to work, 1 litre at work, half a litre on the way home, done. Okay, get a water plan, start drinking some water. It's actually really easy to do. I have some clients who do it in the shower. There's a good way to do it, not wasting any time. Hydration, nutrition. You need to know what you need to eat, and it doesn't have to be horrible. It should be really nice, and you should really enjoy it. And, 19 years of holistic nutrition, I don't think I've ever found anyone who didn't enjoy the metabolic type we found for them. So we teach you what a protein is, what a carbohydrate is. Some people say, oh, I'm going on a no-carb diet. I'm like, wow, no vegetables. Oh, no, I'm only eating vegetables. Well, that's an all-carbohydrate diet. Okay, vegetables and fruits break down into sugars. They are carbohydrates. A lot of people think carbohydrates are your starchy carbohydrates, like the breads and the pastas and so forth, but they're all carbohydrates. They break down into sugars. And if you need repair, your body has a huge need for protein and for saturated fat. So we can tell what metabolic type you are and get you working on a good way to do that. Sometimes meal timing is also very important for people as well. We look at exercise. What exercise is best for you? Some people think you've got to sweat. Oh, I must sweat. Other people think you must stretch. Other people think you must do this. Well, actually, there's a whole world of exercise out there, and it's actually different per person. And the more we age, the wiser we get, actually the more strength work we require. There's a lot of things we require, but exercise is, or movement. Just think of movement. I'm not a big fan of exercise for exercise's sake. I like exercise because it makes me better at jiu-jitsu and better at snowboarding. That's why I do it. And it keeps my shoulders attached and keeps me pain-free, which is fantastic. It keeps me in my correct posture. And then we can look at rest as well. So knowing a great time for bed and a great time for waking up. So there's a whole lot of stuff that you can do. And we put all this stuff in a package called our Be Well 8. And we've got an intake coming up in the next 2 weeks. And our Be Well 8 is an 8-week program. It's $500 and you can pay that off. But the whole idea is to find out exactly what it is that makes you tick and exactly what your body requires, and then to help coach you through it in a way that suits you. So it's a very individualized program, a one-on-one program. So if that's something you're interested in, and we have a ton of programs to suit. So if you're interested, just give us an email at pilates.co.nz or sooner.co.nz. I'm sure if you can find this, you can find us. Just give us an email or give us a call, and we'll write a comment, and we'll get back to you and let you know what can suit you. Now, there's a couple of little things that every time I do one of these, I go through my relevant notes, and I have over 20 years of notes of all sorts of things, all sorts of courses, and my excellent mentors, and just really cool stuff. And here's one I found. Dr. Cliff Oliver, this was a friend of his who used to do this, but it was a really cool idea. And it's called, What Would Love Do Now? And so every time, and I believe this guy was a doctor, every time he walked through a doorway, whether it was into his office, into a consultation, into the car, out of the car, into his house, he would say to himself, what would love do now? And he would pause for a minute. And so when he got out of his car to go home, he'd go, what would love do now? You know what? Love would let all the questions I had go from work, and love would take a few deep breaths, because I have to be loving to myself as well as others. I can't love others as hard as I want if I can't love myself. And I'm going to take some breaths and stand here in the night air and just center myself. And when I walk through the front door, what would love do now? Just be present with my family. Tell my family how grateful I am for them and how good it is to see them. So what would love do now is a really cool game. The second one, and this is one that it really speaks to me now. And again, you know, you'll read books one day, they won't mean a lot to you. You read them 3 years later and holy cow, it's like everything. And that goes for quotes and sayings as well. So at different times in your life, different things will speak to you. So here's one, living in a sacred way. Am I living in a sacred way? Am I doing this in a sacred way? And what is sacred? Sacred means meaningful. Am I doing this in a meaningful way with big worth? And you can look at everything you do like that. So when I come into work and we have our reception in our office right there, am I coming in a really meaningful way, in a really sacred way? And I walk in the door and I see the smiling faces of our staff and I'm like, hi guys. And then there's hugs all around, and that is meaningful and that is sacred. Am I eating in a sacred way? Am I just shoving food down Or am I chewing my food properly and tasting it and going, wow, it's going to do so much good for my body? Am I being present with myself in that? Anything you can do, any interaction with anyone, if we just keep, am I doing this in a sacred or a meaningful or a way of big worth? If you wanted to, you could even go to the toilet in a meaningful way. Anything you wanted to do, you can do. I've tried this. I try to do this. This is awesome. Here's some cool ones. Here are some cool sayings as well. I'll finish with these. Sachin Patel. Whatever is eating you is more important than what you eat. And that's about living worry-free. So often I get people who come in and they're counting calories and it's this much carb and this much protein at this time and I'm exercising this and rah, rah, rah. And when we dig underneath it, what's actually happening is there is so much overwhelm and so much stress in the life that they're trying to control these things to cure this problem. Whereas stress and overwhelm needs to be dealt with first before you worry about anything else. So whatever's eating you is more important than what you eat. That's a first step. Dr. Mark Hyman, he was a good one. We've seen that a positive attitude with enthusiasm for life, emotional vitality, it creates emotional vitality and a sense of purpose. So do we have a positive attitude and do we have enthusiasm? If we're just going through the daily grind and we're going through the motions of what we're supposed to do and we're feeling any of these things, then we're really not hitting those marks for emotional vitality and for a sense of purpose. And that's really what every human needs. This one. Sometimes the weight you need to lose isn't on your body. Okay, there's just another one about here. And a lot of the people I really read a lot with and look up to and do courses with and are mentored by, this is something they all understand. Everyone who's been in the business 20 years, and you have to be pretty successful to be in it 20 years, you know, often, especially in countries like New Zealand, we don't have a huge population. So nutritionists, personal trainers, people like this don't often last in our business too long. The majority won't even last 6 months to 2 years. So if you've been in business 20 years, you're probably doing something right. And it's funny that all of these people that I know and look to for information all say this. Sometimes the weight you need to lose isn't on your body. Now, here's my lucky last one. And this is something that I remind myself quite regularly. If you do something out of duty, it will deplete you. But if you do something out of love, it will energize you. And I had heard this before, and I hadn't really connected with it at the time. And then I remember being at rugby practice with my older son. My younger son was maybe about 2 or 3, and he's running around the field yelling, "You can't catch me." So I'm running with him, and we're just running, sprinting across the field, running, probably for about an hour, like non-stop. And it was hilarious. He was super cute. I was having a great time. I found that really entertaining then. And one of the other mums goes, "How can you run for that long? Like, you don't even look puffed." And I thought, holy cow, I'm not puffed at all. Whereas if you said to me, "Go for a jog around the field," I'd be like, oh, okay. And I would really feel it a lot more. Okay, when I'm at jiu-jitsu and we do laps around the dojo, if I'm really present and I'm there and I'm excited and I'm doing my thing, I don't even notice it. If I have had a lot on that day and I've really pushed it to get there, it'll take me a couple of laps of, why am I mouth breathing? Whereas sometimes I'm just absolutely fine, nose breathing the whole time. So it really is about your mental state. So if you do something out of duty, it will deplete you. If you do it out of love, it'll energize you. So things that we were doing out of duty, how can we change those to do it out of love? If I was talking to a friend this afternoon who's saying they've got to drive their daughter everywhere, across the whole city for sports, all the time. And I know there's a lot of parents in this boat as well. And it's just like, oh, I'm in the car all the time, and it's just non-stop traffic, and it's this and that. And we were looking about how can you use that time better. And this is a common thing on the way to work as well. So some people on the way to work and way home have a long drive. How about you listen to stuff that's really inspirational? Why don't you do your learning there? There are so many podcasts. I mean, have a look at Paul Chek. have a look at Dr. McCullough. There's some really great information there, and it's all caring stuff. It's all self-care stuff. And what if you're waiting at sports practice? Take a book you love. Take something that's beneficial for you. Get your water drunk. The car's a really good place to get your water drunk. So those are all my little things that I wanted to say today. If you guys have any questions, please fill it in and we will get back, comment, whatever it's called, and we'll get back to you tomorrow, actually. So hopefully after tonight, you'll at least be drinking your water and be having a think within yourself to see if a little more self-care is required. And I find it always, it's something I need to look at again and again and again. And I'll take on this and this and this, and I'll go, ooh, hang on, okay, I need to calm down a little bit. My mind wants to, my heart wants to. The body wasn't really made for that much. We need a break, we need downtime. With exercise, people think you exercise more, you get more. The gains are actually made in the rest and recovery and repair and building periods. They're not made in those periods. So over-exercising will actually do you more damage than under. So remember that. All the gains are made in the rest, and if we can help you, we would really love to. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again in a few weeks.